Welcome to The Curiosity Solution. I'm your host, Beverly Beal. Join us as we explore the science of curiosity, share stories of people who've used curiosity to improve their lives, and maybe inspire some aha moments along the way. Hello, this is Beverly with The Curiosity Solution, and today I have an amazing guest for everybody. Welcome, Saul Bautista. Soledad is her full name, but she hails from Guadalajara, Mexico, and has just the resume of just such a person who follows curiosity. Not only is she a licensed therapist in Mexico, she is an EMDR facilitator here in the States. She works with business communities, connecting them to artists and the arts community and around the area. And she is an accomplished actress and a film producer. Am I right? And just recently came back from the Cannes Film Festival. So we have a lot that we can go play with here, Saul. So thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I was feeling a lot of feelings about the remarks. So yes, I love the title of your podcast. I think definitely curiosity is what has gotten me this far, and definitely in all of the interesting places that I found myself in. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. Well, one of the biggest reasons why I thought today, this was honestly perfect timing, because one of the focuses that I've been wanting to do for a while is bringing resources to people that may not necessarily be familiar with them to deal with some of the heavy events that we've had. That we've all been experiencing, whether it is in person, whether it is through TV, whether it's through, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. There have been a lot of very dramatic events in the past 6 to 9 months. And so, what I would like to know from you, with all of the experiences that you have, everything that you're bringing to the table, not just the therapy or the EMDR or the arts, it's kind of all of the above. What are you finding you personally are falling back on when you see things that are distressing?
I really think that there's a neuroscientist, and of course I'm blanking on her name right now. I will, hopefully it'll come back. That she says that the top 3 things for a healthy brain are sleep, movement, and cultivating awe. Sleep is extremely important because it's when the brain digests information. The brain really is the same way that intestines, but it goes through it at night, and it kind of flushes out, right? Like important information that you read or things that you like worth remember, like all of this, it goes through its processes and during sleep. Movement, just because it is necessary for the body to continue stimulating all of the different areas of the brain. And cultivating awe, I think that's the one that I've been relying on the most. I've definitely prioritize my sleep. I've made myself walk a little bit more, just walk. But cultivating awe is one that I think it is helping me a lot, right? Like when I think of anything and everything that nature has to offer, from anything outside myself to my body, right? Like I make the intentional meditation of looking at it with awe, right? Like I think of the eyes, right? Like I have eyes, my eyes work so I can see. Then I think of the intricate system that exists in my brain and in my eyes for me to be able to see. I think that it helps me in a very healthy way create like a very nice sphere of energy around me, because there's a lot of things that I cannot control that are outside of me, that are the things that I'm seeing, or that are things that I am witnessing, or that are things that I'm hearing. And so cultivating spaces where I get to choose the energy, I get to choose the feelings that I want to put in my body, and I get to choose how I want to look at things. I think it has been a very helpful thing for myself, because yes, I absolutely agree with you. I think it was probably back in April where I had to make a very conscious decision of how was I gonna do my civic duty of staying informed while also not dysregulating my nervous system by knowing too much, right? Like, I don't need to know it all. I don't need to read it all. I don't need to consume it all to know that we're not in a good place. And so that has been kind of like my help. Like, what am I consuming with my eyes, with my ears, with my body? And then how I'm cultivating awe in the sense of curating that space for myself where I'm protecting my energy and I'm protecting the things that I want to feel. Yeah.
Just a Tuesday.
This is Tuesday in my life.
Exactly. No, that is actually something I found myself prioritizing as well. Going to bed at a regular time, and I've now trained my body to wake up at. I don't know if I trained my body, if my body trained me to get up and go to a 6 a.m. workout, but that's what's been happening at least 3, sometimes 4 days a week. But yeah, without the movement, I get very itchy and irritable. I've noticed. But the cultivating awe, obviously, with the work that you've done with the arts community and business, I'm sure you have met many creative talents who do awe you with what they are coming up with and pulling out of their brain. Can you tell me about some of the memorable moments where some disparate individuals may have intersected and found that life just changed? I'd be very curious about some of your favorite moments there.
Oh my gosh, I am very, very grateful that I have a ton. But I'm gonna choose one. There's this artist that we were emailing back and forth. He was self-taught, and he kept saying, like, I want to have a piece in an art gallery, but I don't know if I'm good enough, right? Like, and so we had to reschedule a few times, and he kept just saying, like, but I'm self-taught. Like, I taught myself, like, I learned by myself. Like, he kept bringing that up often, and I was like, great. Like, I mean, I'll help you, and if I can't help you, then we'll have that different conversation. And we met at a coffee shop in Waco, and he pulls out this amazing drawings, like of human figures, right? Like on pencil and on pen, but like fine art level quality of things. And I was like, okay, one, why are you nervous? To like in my head, right? But I was like, can you like tell me more? Like, what draw you to this? Like, what is your? Why are you nervous about taking it to a gallery? And he was like, well, because I didn't go to school. Like, I haven't had like a trainer. Like, seeing all of the ways, and in his mind, he was shielding himself from rejection, right? From thinking that he wasn't good enough, and that people wouldn't consider his work good. And so I was just in love immediately. And I email I follow up in an email, put him in contact. And I think within 5 months, they managed to have a couple of meetings and everything. And he was able to put a few of his pieces in the Art Center Waco because he was that good. And then he ended up teaching a summer class for adults. So that was just an amazing moment for myself and an incredible honor. Like, I feel like creatives, we often tend to have this feeling that we could do more, that we could learn more, that we could do it better. Like, it's kind of recurrent. And being in that position and being able to have that conversation with him and seeing his transformation has been incredible. And now he's done a couple of collaborations here in Austin. And now it's so beautiful to see him, from my awe to seeing him just like feel fully in his body how powerful his work is. So that's one, but I have quite a few.
That's incredible. But you know what, basically what you hit on something that I think sucks the awe, sucks the joy out of life, and that is the anticipation of rejection. I think I've heard of talked about the assumption of rejection, and how we often reject ourselves before anybody else has an opportunity to, kind of thinking we're protecting ourselves from pain. But what we end up doing is preventing ourselves from experiencing joy, from experiencing accomplishment and success. And so, as someone who has had experience both in the Spanish speaking and English speaking community, do you feel that that is something that is common with just humans, or is it more of a cultural thing?
I really think it's part of the human experience.
Okay.
I do think that there's cultural tendencies to favor or to reduce more from a certain group or another group. I definitely think women get impacted by this fear a lot more often than men. I do see that things are shifting, though. I have a lot of hope in the new generation. I have a lot of young people that reach out and that are I'm having really fascinating conversations with. So that makes me very happy. But I think you touched on something that it made me think. Like how curious can we get about curating intentional spaces of discomfort for ourselves, right?
Okay, say some more.
Uh,
Curating spaces of intentional discomfort.
for ourselves. For
Ooh.
example, therapy, right? For example, a class of a sport that I've never done boxing. I've been curious about it. I still don't know how I feel about it. I think when we tell the brain that it belongs to us and we don't belong to it, we can only do that stretching exercise by curating these spaces of discomfort for ourselves, right? Where we're challenging ourselves to getting outside of our own boxes, right? Because we each build our own boxes. Sure, society plays its own part, family plays another one, language, like many elements play in the boxes that we design for ourselves. But then I feel like as adults, it is our job to get ourselves out of the box and make a different shape, and or just not have a box or a shape at all. And I think that the importance of becoming cognizant of that is where, yeah, it's going to be discomfort, but it can be manageable, right? There's a lot of conversations about safe places and the importance of safe spaces, and I think that in some ways, safety is overrated. I think psychological safety and self-efficacy or self-trust really gives us bravery, because safety is, I think it's an illusion and it's not equitable for everyone. And it's something that I'm more of a proponent of brave spaces and safe spaces. Yeah.
I love how you phrase that. Brave spaces versus safe spaces, because you're right. Without the curiosity to explore, we never grow. The caterpillar would never, I mean, obviously the caterpillar has a whole different biological thing, but the caterpillar would never become a butterfly if it hadn't explored the curiosity of going into the cocoon, not knowing what was on the other side. And I think that's where, as a globe, we are all right now, where we are all entering into this period of metamorphosis, whether we want to be there or not. From a Chinese astrology perspective, we are in last year we started a 20-year fire cycle. Fire is the element of transformation. It's about wisdom. It's about speaking. It's a fast moving energy that can, highlight truths and burn things to the ground, but also create incredibly fertile soil for something new to generate and to be created. I've been warning all of my clients that they're feeling a little whacked out just for this year, and it's like, you need to find ways to deal with the upcoming energy, because the next 2 years, those the year elements are both fire. And so we've got
fire.
And especially next year, because next year is the Yang Fire Horse year, and the horse's element by itself is fire. And then you have the fire element on top of that. And then you have the big fire on top of that. So if you think this has been fast moving this year, just hold on tight, which is why I wanted to make sure that we had time to talk with you, because let's discuss the difference between traditional therapy and EMDR. Can you say a little bit more about that, and when is it appropriate to use them?
I thank you for asking that question. It is something that I've been finding better ways to tell a lot of people more about the importance of that, right? Like, I think talk therapy is where the majority of the other schools of thought lies on. I mean, there's conductism, there is cognitive behavioral theory. There's a ton that require a lot of talking and a lot of communication. But I believe that when we ask about healing the nonverbal part of the brain, there was not an avenue for the longest time, or at least it wasn't taught to me until I found EMDR, right? EMDR, for those who don't know, stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it is literally that through eye movement, you are able to rewire your brain to both hemispheres so that it desensitizes the emotion and that you can reprocess a memory in a different way. And that to me is one of the massive differences, right? Like, one allows you to talk more, to explore more your feelings, to explore more the depth and the width of an experience. You can be in some processes in talk therapy, like, for example, in psychoanalysis for many years, depending on the therapist, depending on the focus and priority of the work that you are doing. And I think that EMDR, it's one that I find more, I don't know that effective is necessarily the word, but it's a tool that it really builds your sense of self-efficacy, right? Like, we are able to learn tools that are going to allow us to have more freedom and more peace and more joy, I guess, in our lives. And I think that EMDR is one that allows you to kind of pinpoint a memory, identify something that has been either crippling or just overactivating and overusing your nervous system, and then just release it and then have a different way of looking at life. So I guess that's a long-winded explanation. I think talk therapy in all of its formats allows you more time to build language on how to understand things. And EMDR, as a trauma-informed practice, it's a tool that allows you to do a little bit faster and more effective a relief from trauma. I think ideally they should be kind of complementary to each other. But yeah, I would say that those are the two main differences that I see.
Well, it sounds like what you just said is you almost need to have the talk therapy first so that you can get a good understanding of what the trauma was. And again, trauma doesn't have to be anything, horrible to some people, but to whoever it is happening to, it can be a very traumatic event. Sometimes Like somebody may have scraped their car on a curb and it's no big deal. But if that, depending on the person, if somebody else did that could set them into, off in the deep end for quite a while. But so you've got the trauma, or the top part here, like you said, and then you have the EMDR, so that it can take this and go like, okay, it's been living in this part of your brain. Let's shift it over here. Okay, now we're going to sort this out. And now we're going to come back over here. We're going to let it sift out. And then it keeps going and going and going until all that you're left with is a lot of brain connections that are able to really look at, well, what happened? Why did I react this way? What will I do should it ever happen again? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, I think that you described it very well. And I think that the other piece of it is that the brain is a storyteller, right? Like it's a fascinating storyteller.
Sometimes it tells really good stories, and sometimes it's like, you're a jerk.
And that's the thing, right? Like just like you said, I appreciate that you also pointed that out. Like trauma, nobody gets to say what is a traumatic event and what is not a traumatic event. Individual trauma, it's its own thing. And but the idea is that you go back to just understanding that it's something that happened, right?
Yeah.
There is no good or bad, right or wrong. This desensitization is that it's just a lived experience that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just like any other moment of your life, like is harvesting the positive of that. And sure, there's moments like if your parents die, if you have a car accident, if you lose a limb, if something happens that there's loss, the depth of that harvesting is going to take a little bit longer. But it is a lived experience, right? Like, and I think that is one of the things that as humans, it connects us, right? Like we all experience human experiences that, like, if you grab a knife and you cut yourself, the experience is going to be universal, If
I don't want to think about cutting my arm. No.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, the first experience I ever had, learning about EMDR was through my father, and he had been in World War II and came back with some back injuries, but that wasn't even what would set him off. It was, yes and no, but his back would hurt a lot worse starting around his birthday in March. And really, we all lived on eggshells until the first part of May. Now, as a farmer, I always assumed that it was simply part of the spring planting. And, you have to get the crops in at a certain time, otherwise you don't get a harvest. His EMDR practitioner was able to help him identify weather patterns, specific dates where he was in combat, and even certain smells. He had to go back and look at where he was in Germany and what crops were, what was blooming at the time. All of those things helped him along with the actual tapping. I think in person it was more tapping than the finger, the following the eyes. I think they did both. And I was glad that towards the end of he was able to do this towards the end of his life, because he was so much happier and calmer and communicative. And so I became a huge proponent of that, and learning about how anniversary dates, like a month before an event, the body remembers, and you start feeling a little like, I'm a little like, yeah, I would notice myself, I would start to get sharper and more critical. Is that a pretty common experience for people who, before they go through EMDR and can identify those anniversary dates?
I think that it really depends. There's at least in my practice, there's been people from many different areas that have what they identify is more all of the body connections that you just mentioned, right? Like if there is this specific smell, I get like really bad panic attacks, and or when I hear this specific sound, like I can't breathe. Like that is how a lot of people that have come to me, like it's very specific to a sense, and it sends people in this distress that is just they cannot do it on their own, so they seek out for help. But I know that when you start working with them, then you also find those dates, right? Because
Okay.
I think that it was not originally, I'm going to assume that with your dad, the way that you just described it had to do more with the pain and the seasons.
Yeah.
And then once he went, the awareness of the date became like also another component. So I think that is the overwhelming dysregulation of the nervous system is what makes people kind of seek out help. And then once we start kind of mapping it out is when we find out all of those other pieces or components that are important to a trauma moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is, in your opinion, is there a better way than others to deal with collective trauma? Like, for example, we all, sadly, too many of us, literally saw a man die when you looked at the video of Charlie Kirk being shot. I'm not entirely sure that I've actually processed that fully, because I think my brain kind of shut down and was like, oh, wow, okay. And then I moved on because I don't think I was quite ready to deal with that. But is there something that, in your experience, that would be advice for people who might be, who might have had extra trauma because of that? Perhaps they lost a loved one to gun violence, or they feel like they lost a best friend, or they may have lost a touch point, somehow else that was connected to this situation. Or maybe it even is simply a feeling like they're losing their freedom because they can't say anything about this. It's all collective trauma, in my opinion. How would one go about addressing this or even acknowledging it?
It's so interesting because when you just described that, when you started describing that, I was going to my first witnessing of a person being murdered on live action camera, which was George Floyd, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that being able to give ourselves language and capacity to going back to safe spaces and brave spaces, right? I think that going back to the metamorphosis and going back to the collective history of the world, there is no one country on the planet that has not been horrible to another country in the planet. There has not been one nation or one civilization that has not killed tons of people for different reasons. And there has not been really a space for us to even talk and understand collective trauma, let alone what collective healing could be. So I think we're very much in the very early stages of that. I mean, this is what we're doing. You are in your home, I'm in my home. People that's going to be watching are everywhere, potentially in the globe. And I think that is the beginning, knowing that violence is sadly a universal experience. In my personal opinion, it comes from unhealed people. I think that the more we become brave about speaking up, and we become braver about showing up for people that do not have the same access, do not have the same like intellectual privileges, right? Like I think so much about, I am able to have this interview with you and this chat with you because I speak English and I speak Spanish. If I did not speak English, we needed an interpreter. Maybe the opportunity could, like, the point of my answer is we need to speak about it. We need to talk about it. And we need to remove blame and shame from it. I do not think that I can make a proper assessment of whoever killed Mr. Kirk or the person that killed George Floyd, and or the people that have killed the several people that we watched killed, right? I understand that there's policy that could help that is not happening. I understand that there's things that can be done that then people are afraid to talk about. And so we're just going to keep enduring it until we do something.
Yeah.
So I think that the first step, just like to knowing that you need help, is to say, I need help.
Yeah.
To come full terms to say, so anybody, you know, like say, I need help to your neighbor, to your mom, to your church, if you're a person of faith, to just say it, because trying to just process it, or trying to just let it go, or trying to take a side on the others are the bad ones and we're the good ones, and somebody did something horrible, and so, like, getting into the emotional aspect of a scenario that just is,
Yeah.
it dysregulates all of this, and it cages us into not using our voice, right? I do not, just going back to, I know that is a bad example of like cutting yourself.
Sorry, I just like,
yeah, but
it's okay.
I do not think that the family of Mr. Kirk suffered less or more than the family of George Floyd. I think that they each experienced, endure, and felt in like, and the horror of it is that they're both dead. They were both murdered, right? And so, and that is where you're narrowing it down to two examples. But I think that is where this thought process, to me, individually, we can create different collectives, right? How are we talking about it? How are we processing it together? And how are we inviting ourselves to change some of the narratives of othering, right? Like, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys has never served anyone. There is something that I use in some of my sessions with people about zooming in, which is going to an individual event, a moment, right? Like, you zoom in and you do some processing, you look at it, you talk about it, you see it, whatever, and then you zoom out. And I feel that, to me, we are in a moment that as humanity, because now we have technology in this capacity, there should be no shame about all of the mistakes of the past. It should be acknowledgement and recognition from all societies, because again, we can go to the Romans, we can go to the people in Brazil, like you can go to any part of the planet, and it's not pretty, and it's the communication and the learning, and then the forgiving, and then the having compassion, and then the ability to, with curiosity, imagine a weaving of a new future. Because the past, for forever in the past, we did not have this ability to communicate and to spread history and to witness history. This is different. This is different. Sorry about my long-winded answer. Hopefully it answered what you asked me.
Well, it did, and that it the more that we can zoom out and acknowledge that the thing was the thing, you know, that the event happened, that, and without acknowledging or assigning blame, we can feel the grief, we can feel the loss, we can feel the diminishment even of, you know, our own individual lives, even if the other group is not somebody that we would necessarily align with, because we are all still humans having this human experience. And in my personal opinion, it's when, like you said before, when our systems get dysregulated, then we stop thinking and we simply start acting. And that's actually one of the things that, you know, I've appreciated about the EMDR as well as the therapy. And it's also one of the reasons why I teach classes on disconnecting from the emotions of other people, of, you know, people, places, events, media, because again, from my perspective, a lot of the reason why trauma keeps getting inflicted on other people is because individuals are unable to stop getting that feedback from others that are trying to influence or control us. I think of it as if, you know, we are radio towers, and we have signals that are going back and forth to each other, but other people can then send their little signal in and hook into us and start pouring their energy, their influence into us. We see that happen all the time with cults. We see that happen all the time with even high school groups. You know, they always talk about the mean girl. You know, there's the one jock. You know, they're the ones who are influencing everybody else in that little clique. And I think what has been happening with too many of these, especially the people that are inflicting gun violence right now, they are being influenced by outside sources, and they don't know how to pull back a little bit to ask, like, okay, well, I need that little bit of space. Is this what I want to do, or is this what they want me to want to do? And it's that little bit of breathing room that I try to help give people during my personal energy protection classes. You know, they used to call them energy hygiene, and some people get really weirded out by the term hygiene. But this personal energy protection, it's a very important. And then what that being able to do that, then you can hear your own thoughts and your own emotions, which then improves the experience of therapy and EMDR. At least that's how I would assume how it would all work really well together if people were to do both. Is there an example that you could give us as to like the statement that one might use in an EMDR session?
A statement that one might use.
Well, like a statement, like you said that you zoom in to an experience, and you can make up something like, you know, what would be like a clarifying, you know, something that they would be focusing on when they're doing the tapping or the eye movement.
So the language for that is like negative cognition and positive cognitions, right? Like when
there we go.
We have a traumatic event, the nonverbal part of the brain gets hooked into a statement, which are usually negative cognitions. And those are in like different realms of like value, responsibility, love. Like one could be, you know, like, I'm not lovable. One could be, I am not enough. One could be, I should have done better. And the thing is that the event is whatever it is, but that nonverbal negative cognition is in your brain on loop, right? And so that is what we're trying to unhook from an event.
The statement that popped into my head when you said, I should have done more. My first thought was, unfortunately, something that I've heard other of my own clients, I should have fought back, or I should have fought harder.
You know, Gabor Mate is one of my newest people that I'm madly in love with.
He's a good guy.
He has a quote about, he says, trauma is not what happened to you. Trauma is what happened inside you with what happened to you. And he recently did an interview with Mel Robbins, which I'm comfortable sharing because she's shared it. It's somewhere in her podcast, about how she woke up at a family vacation to a boy on top of her, doing a lot of inappropriate things. I don't think she described it as rape, but she was definitely being touched inappropriately. And Gabor asks her, like, what did she feel? Like, he's not doing it necessarily EMDR, but the process of de-escalation and questioning, it was very, very much in how do we understand that memory. Anyway, the point on where they land is that the problem was not that that happened to her. The problem was that that happened to her, and she felt that she had nobody to go tell about it. And so, I mean, this is a kind of broad example, but it's going back to what you were saying about experiencing collective trauma, right? Like, if I am feeling a lot of feelings about the murders that I've witnessed, and everybody in my group is like, good for them, or everybody should kill them all, how do I grow the bravery or find the space for me to say, I'm not feeling that, I'm feeling all of these feelings? And I think that is why I'm connecting it to this session that Gabor Mate did with Mel Robbins, because sometimes feeling lonely or having spaces of solitude, it has nothing to do with being alone, right? Like, even if it's just a sensation, like, and the way that she described that memory, she had no one to go talk to, right? And I think that is part of this collective, right? Who are the people in our collective? As humanity is the entire planet, right? And we should see it as such. And in your individual collective, like, who's your group? Who's your people? And how do you become better at, I think this is another Gabor Mate quote, healing is not about feeling better, but about becoming better at feeling. And who are your friends and your people that you can feel with, like, whatever it is that you feel, without judgments or without solutions, but just like, I feel this, like, I feel. Yeah, I think that's like the nonverbal part of the brain hooks into like small things on loop, but it's still language. And when we find it and when we're able to unlock it, it allows us to share from a deeper, more vulnerable place. That, to me, all of that is part of the healing.
I know with my work, especially when I'm doing the intuitive coaching and healing, I look a lot. I ask my clients to focus on different body parts. So there's an element of somatic healing, and I'm assuming that's the reason behind the tapping or the eye movement, because it's involving the body. Have you found that with certain traumas that eye movement or the tapping is better, or does it not matter? Is that just specific to each individual client?
In my experience, it has more to do with the preference of the client. But we're just talking about right now eye movement and tapping, right?
Yeah.
I've been very curious to explore it. I have not done it yet. Experiencing the buzzers, because the eye movement, you are physically moving the eyes to the left and right side of the room. With the tapping, you are crossing and you are making physical stimulation. But with the buzzing, I wonder what the intensity or what the different connection to the body will be, because it's an external factor.
Do you have actual buzzers, or you're just like pretending you're
No. You can buy them, and the client can give you a permission to share in this software, and you control the buzzing. There's people actually that have done enough EMDR that sometimes, to de-escalate yourself, you can just use them on yourself.
I actually hadn't heard about that.
It's really fascinating. I do the eye movement for myself when I need to calm down sometimes. But I've been very curious about exploring the buzzers. Yeah.
That's funny. So I often do I call it the car wash, but it's like I visualize a round hairbrush with bristles that comb over my body to disconnect all of the all of the energy that's connected to me accidentally. I'm usually, sometimes I'm really good at keeping my shields up, and other times they sneak through. But no, it's good that you are practicing what you preach, and as am I, because again, having a grounded nervous system is a luxury, but it's not really a luxury. It is what we need right now to survive. So Saul, are you accepting new clients to your practice right now?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm about to open 2 spots. I've been closing some processes with some of my clients. So I'm about to open 2 spots. I'm not sure exactly when just yet, but coming here pretty soon. There'll be two spots available. Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. And do you have any other exciting projects coming up that are not therapy related that you can share with a general audience?
There's some projects definitely that I'm working. The same director of my last film, Gregory Kasnick, has an amazing brain, and he likes to hear my thoughts and opinions on what he's creating. And so hopefully there's a few collaborations there. And then, since you ask and it's here, I can't say it. The short film, The Heart of Texas, is coming to the end of its festival circuit run, which it did so well. So we are going to start actively looking to make the feature piece of The Heart of Texas.
So it's not just going to be the short, it's going to become a feature. Oh, good, because I did see it. I did see that, and it was very moving, and I did want to know more. So that's exciting. I'm happy to hear that.
I feel like one of the things that I've connected the most with the ability of doing film has been that individual trauma requires individual healing, and it is kind of our responsibility and our choice to do it or not. But collective trauma requires collective healing, and so far the only collective healing practice that I've seen for millennia is art.
Mm-hmm.
Drum circles, painting, storytelling, the art of gathering, and the art of sharing, and the art of speaking up, and that heals. And so being at this moment in history, able to tell a story that is so complex, that it doesn't have a villain, it has just a lot of questions, open questions. It has been an honor, and I feel like it allows me to really live on purpose, right? Like, I don't know if I'm a good psychologist because I'm an actor and I love art, or I don't know if I'm a good actor and my perception of art is so different because I'm a psychologist. I don't know, but I know that they very much informed each other, and I think they make me a good human for that.
I would agree. I would 100% agree. I think it's because you're a good psychologist because you're curious, and you're a good artist and actress and all that because you're curious, which kind of ties things up in a nice little bow. Thank you so much for your time, Saul. In the show notes, I will put your contact information. So if someone wants to snag one of those 2 spots that are coming up, I know you do all of your work on Zoom, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Okay, good. And I will also put the information for my personal energy protection class that is coming up. For those of you that are listening, the next one is going to be on Sunday, October the 5th. But I usually have them at least once a quarter, sometimes every other month, depending upon schedules. So just go to my website, theintuitiveinterior.com, and you can find out if when the next one is that works for you. So in the meantime, everybody find someone to hug, even if it is some tree, because trees give great energy. Call those that you care for, and be extra kind. Be extra kind to those around you. We all could use just that little extra understanding because you never know what someone is dealing with.
Correct.
So thanks again. And until next time, we'll
Bye.
see you guys later.